Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the life you've been living isn't difficult because of what's happening around you, but because of everything you've been carrying inside. Every disappointment, every regret, every painful memory, every fear about tomorrow, and every mistake you've ever made has quietly settled somewhere within you. At first, those burdens seem small, almost insignificant. You convince yourself that you'll deal with them someday, but that day never comes. Instead, the weight slowly grows until it becomes part of your everyday life. You no longer notice how heavy it is because you've carried it for so long. Exhaustion feels normal. Anxiety feels familiar. You begin to believe that this constant mental and emotional weight is simply what adulthood feels like. But what if it isn't? What if the peace you've been searching for has never been waiting somewhere in the future? What if it's been buried beneath everything you've refused to let go of? Many people spend years searching for happiness, while unknowingly holding on to the very things that prevent them from finding it. They cling to painful memories because they fear forgetting the lessons they learned. They hold on to resentment because they believe it protects them from being hurt again. They replay old conversations in their minds, imagining different endings that will never happen. They worry endlessly about tomorrow, as if anxiety has the power to prepare them for uncertainty. Yet none of these habits create peace. They only create more noise. The human mind is extraordinary, but when left unchecked, it becomes trapped in an endless cycle of overthinking. One thought leads to another, then another, until a single concern grows into a mountain of imagined problems. Hours disappear while the mind revisits the past or invents disasters that may never come. Overthinking disguises itself as responsibility, making people believe they're solving problems, when in reality, they're simply feeding their fears. No amount of replaying yesterday can change what happened, and no amount of worrying about tomorrow can control what hasn't arrived. The only thing overthinking truly steals is the present moment, and with it, the peace that could have existed there. The first real step toward freedom isn't learning how to stop thinking. It's learning how to stop believing every thought. Thoughts appear naturally, just like clouds drifting across the sky. Some are useful, while others are nothing more than passing fears, old memories, or imagined possibilities. The moment you stop chasing every thought and simply observe it, something begins to change. The noise gradually becomes quieter. The emotions lose their grip. You begin to understand that your thoughts are experiences, not your identity. You are not your anxiety, your fear, your doubts, or your regrets. You are the person watching them come and go. That small shift creates a space where clarity begins to replace confusion, and peace slowly finds its way back into your life. Then there is another voice that quietly shapes almost every decision you make. The voice inside your own head. It has been speaking to you for years, reminding you of every mistake, comparing your life to everyone else's, and convincing you that somehow you're never enough. Most people don't even recognize this voice anymore because it has become so familiar. Imagine if someone followed you every day, criticizing everything you did, reminding you of every failure, and questioning every decision you made. Eventually, you would walk away from that person. Yet many people allow that same conversation to continue inside their own minds every single day. The words we repeat to ourselves slowly become the beliefs we carry. And those beliefs shape our confidence, our relationships, and the direction of our lives. But just as negative thoughts can become habits, so can compassion. Replacing harsh judgment with curiosity changes everything. Instead of asking why you always fail, ask what the experience is trying to teach you. Instead of saying you're not capable, remind yourself that you're still learning. Confidence isn't built through perfection. It's built through patience, growth, and the willingness to speak to yourself with the same kindness you would offer someone you truly care about. As that emotional weight begins to lift, another truth slowly comes into focus. Much of what people carry isn't actually pain from the past. It's fear of the future. Fear has an incredible ability to disguise itself as caution. It convinces people to wait a little longer, to prepare a little more, to gather more information before taking the first step. It whispers that the timing isn't right, that they're not experienced enough, talented enough, or ready enough. On the surface, it sounds reasonable, even responsible. But beneath those excuses lies something much deeper. The fear of failing, the fear of being judged, and perhaps the greatest fear of all, the fear of discovering that things won't work out as hoped. The tragedy is that while fear promises protection, it often steals the very experiences that make life meaningful. Dreams remain dreams because they're never pursued. Opportunities quietly pass by because they were never taken. Entire years slip away while waiting for certainty that never arrives. The reality is that confidence has never been the starting point of any journey. Confidence is something that grows after taking the first uncertain step. Every successful person has walked through moments of doubt, hesitation, and uncertainty. The difference isn't that they were fearless. It's that they refused to let fear make every decision for them. The path forward has never required perfect certainty. It only requires enough courage to begin. Perhaps nowhere is fear more powerful than in relationships. Human beings naturally form deep connections with others, and those connections become woven into their identities. Families, friendships, and romantic relationships shape who they are, making the thought of letting someone go feel almost impossible. Even when a relationship becomes unhealthy, many people continue holding on simply because the familiar feels safer than the unknown. They convince themselves that things might change, that tomorrow will somehow be different, or that enduring emotional pain is better than facing loneliness. Yet there comes a moment when holding on causes more suffering than letting go ever could. Some relationships inspire growth, support dreams, and bring out the best in people. Others slowly drain confidence, create constant anxiety, and leave emotional scars that deepen with time. Walking away from those relationships is never easy, but sometimes it becomes the greatest act of self-respect a person can make. Letting go isn't about rejecting someone else's worth. It's about recognizing your own. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to remain forever. Some people arrive to teach lessons that shape your character before continuing on their own journey. Their purpose was never to stay. It was to help you become stronger, wiser, and more aware of what you truly deserve. Accepting that truth allows healing to begin and creates room for healthier, more meaningful connections in the future. Of course, even after leaving painful situations behind, another burden often remains: the weight of guilt and shame. These emotions have a way of lingering long after mistakes have been made. Guilt reminds people of something they wish they had done differently, while shame convinces them that those mistakes define who they are. Over time, that belief becomes incredibly destructive. Instead of seeing a mistake as something that happened, they begin seeing themselves as someone who is permanently flawed. But no one reaches wisdom without making poor decisions along the way. Every life is filled with moments that, if given another chance, would have unfolded differently. The important question isn't whether mistakes happen. They always will. The real question is whether those mistakes become permanent prisons or valuable teachers. Accepting responsibility where necessary is an important part of growth, but endlessly punishing yourself serves no meaningful purpose. The past cannot be rewritten, no matter how many times it's replayed in the mind. What can change is the meaning attached to it. The same experience that once created regret can eventually become the reason someone develops compassion, resilience, humility, or strength. Healing begins the moment a person stops asking why they weren't perfect and starts appreciating how every challenge shaped the person they've become today. Life itself is constantly changing, yet people often resist that change with everything they have. There is comfort in familiarity, even when that familiarity brings unhappiness. A job that no longer inspires, a relationship that no longer grows, routines that no longer fulfill. People cling to them because uncertainty feels frightening. The unknown has always carried unanswered questions, and the human mind naturally prefers predictable discomfort over unpredictable possibility. But every meaningful transformation begins the same way, by stepping into territory that feels unfamiliar. Every new beginning asks people to leave something behind before they can receive something better. Like seasons changing throughout the year, life also asks people to release what has completed its purpose. Trees don't struggle to hold on to leaves that no longer serve them. Rivers don't cling to the water that has already passed. Nature understands that growth depends on continual renewal. Yet human beings often exhaust themselves trying to preserve versions of life that have already ended. Accepting change doesn't eliminate uncertainty, but it does transform uncertainty into possibility. Behind every ending lies the chance for a new beginning, and behind every goodbye waits an opportunity that could never have appeared otherwise. While the mind is busy replaying yesterday or worrying about tomorrow, something incredibly valuable quietly slips away. As these burdens slowly begin to fall away, something unexpected begins to happen. Life itself doesn't suddenly become easier, but the way you experience it changes completely. The problems that once felt overwhelming no longer seem impossible to face. The constant noise inside your mind grows quieter, and for the first time in a long while, you begin responding to life instead of simply reacting to it. That is the quiet power of letting go. It doesn't change the world around you, it changes the person experiencing that world. One of the greatest lessons to understand is that life was never meant to be perfect. Yet so many people spend years chasing perfection, believing they must have the perfect career, the perfect relationship, the perfect body, or the perfect future before they can finally be happy. But perfection has always been an illusion. It keeps people waiting instead of living. The most meaningful moments in life are rarely perfect. They are messy, unpredictable, and beautifully imperfect. Mistakes become lessons, setbacks become opportunities, and every challenge becomes another chance to grow. Real progress begins the moment you stop asking yourself to be perfect and simply allow yourself to be human. One of the greatest lessons to understand is that life was never meant to be perfect. Yet so many people spend years chasing perfection, believing they must have the perfect career, the perfect relationship, the perfect body, or the perfect future before they can finally be happy. But perfection has always been an illusion. It keeps people waiting instead of living. The most meaningful moments in life are rarely perfect. They are messy, unpredictable, and beautifully imperfect. Mistakes become lessons, setbacks become opportunities, and every challenge becomes another chance to grow. Real progress begins the moment you stop asking yourself to be perfect and simply allow yourself to be human. If you look back on your own life, you'll probably realize that some of the moments you once believed would break you eventually became the experiences that made you stronger. The heartbreak that left you feeling lost taught you resilience. The failures you wished had never happened gave you wisdom. The uncertainty you feared often led you toward opportunities you never would have discovered otherwise. Looking back, it becomes clear that life wasn't trying to punish you. It was preparing you for the person you were meant to become. Every difficult season carried a lesson, and every ending quietly made room for a new beginning. Perhaps that's the greatest truth of all. Letting go isn't about forgetting the past or pretending painful moments never happened. It's about refusing to let those moments define the rest of your life. Every time you release fear, resentment, guilt, or unrealistic expectations, you make space for something far more valuable. You make room for peace, for confidence, for healthier relationships, and for a future that isn't limited by yesterday's pain. So, as you move forward, remember that healing doesn't happen all at once. It happens one decision at a time, one thought released, one fear faced, one burden set down. Little by little, the weight becomes lighter, your heart becomes freer, and life begins to feel less like something you have to survive and more like something you can truly enjoy. Because in the end, letting go isn't about losing a part of yourself. It's about uncovering the person who has been there all along, patiently waiting beneath the weight you were never meant to carry.